Hey guys, Bridgie here. In this video I want to talk about why some clients are willing to pay you more money and other ones aren't, and how you can attract the high paying ones, of course. Now, the very first thing to consider is that if you have already enough experience, the problem might not be you. And let me explain. If you already have, for example, a couple of years of experience and you know that you're a good designer, you can provide good value, you have a track record of providing good value, and essentially you have the basic skills to do that, I would say that a lot of the times the problem might not be you, meaning that you need to find better clients that are going to simply leverage and earn more from your skill set. Now, what do I refer exactly by that? I'm simply referring to the fact that if, for example, a client is running a business which turns over $100,000 a year, and you provide a design solution for them, maybe it's a website or an app, the potential impact that on average you would have on that very client is probably going to be smaller compared to a client who, for example, runs a $10 million a year business. And this seems like a small difference, but it really isn't, because if a client is going to have a much higher return on the investment from your design skill running a bigger company, he is going to like, or at least he's likely to pay more. And the reason being is just pure ROI. And this is something that I didn't really understand when I first started out. I thought that it was just about me and my value and my portfolio and my track record. But sometimes it really isn't. And actually, I would say that a lot of the times, especially when you have quite a bit of experience, just the qualification of the client is going to bring you maybe 80% or 90% of the result itself. And to give you a real life example of this, I'm going to talk about the time where I actually earned $5,000 in just 2 days of design work working on an application. And the reason why I managed to do that much, which is very unusual, at least in my experience, is not by doing any fixed pricing or anything like that, but simply because the client at that time had an urgent need to solve a big problem for a big pharma company. I'm not going to disclose the name, but essentially he needed a lot of work to be done fast, and there was a lot of on stake. So he would earn a lot of money for that very project, much more than 5K. So 5K wasn't really much for him in comparison. Now, I could do the same work for someone who just raised maybe 100 grand or 200 grand in seed fund capital. And there's probably no way he would pay for that amount, simply because there wouldn't be enough value that would be created in that specific instance. So think about value also in terms of not only yourself, but can you provide enough value for that specific client? And just to give you another example, I'm working with another client of mine who is basically raised, I think it was like $2 million or something like that. And I'm really cautious about the price tag and the amount of and at that stage, you do have some money, but you really need to maximize it in order to get to the next funding round. So really, when it comes to the amount of work and the amount of money that you can require, it's not as much as you might think, because you want to make yourself a no-brainer option for the future as well. So you always have to be cautious as to how much you charge at each and every stage of the business. And especially you don't want to charge too much to clients who are at an earlier stage of the business, because later on you're going to be missing on both the referrals that you can get from that client, and also the repeat work and more work that is going to come down the line when that company is going to be more successful and is going to be in need of a UI UX designer, a web designer, a graphic designer, and so on. So you always have to calibrate the pricing, not just based on what you want, but also based on what is bringing, or actually entirely on the value that you're bringing to that specific client. And I'm not saying this to say you should work with anybody, and if they don't have enough value, you should just like lowball your pricing. You can simply say, I'm not going to work with clients under a certain amount, and or at a earlier stage. So for example, I don't work with startups with no funding, and I don't work with a hobbyist who have a business idea and they want to launch an MVP in with close to no investment. I just decide not to work with those clients. So being picky about the clients that you work with, it's another really important thing, because yes, you're going to miss out on some quick cash, but longer term you're going to be so much well off and financially secure, and you're going to have so many more opportunities down the line, because at the end of the day, time is limited, and you really have to maximize it and try to make the most out of it. So I hope this video was helpful. I'm curious to hear about your thoughts on this topic and your pricing strategies, and what would you recommend with someone who's just starting out or who has a few years of experience under his belt. So feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video.